Hey everyone, 3 quick things before the video gets started. First, new avatar. Isn't she cute? Boba did an amazing job and I will link to their Tumblr in the description. They are super talented and I think they have very fair commission prices, so please check them out and tell them I sent you. Second, thank you guys for 20,000 subscribers. I hope I don't disappoint. Oh gosh, it's a little wild to think about that many people in a room, so again, thank you. Third, quick trigger warning for these topics that are brought up in the video. It's kept lighthearted, but just in case, I forgot to put it in the actual video, so doing it now. And with that, let's get started! Hey everyone, welcome back to another video where I discuss something nostalgic to feel alive once more. As a 2000s baby, I love a lot of music from that era. From Cascada to My Chemical Romance to Miley Cyrus, I love a variety of 2000s staples. One of my all-time favorite musicians from this time is Avril Lavigne. Avril is a Canadian singer most well known for her songs like Skater Boy, Complicated, What the Hell, and Girlfriend. She also did that Hello Kitty song, but I tend to ignore that one. Most of her songs are absolute bangers in my opinion. So, how did she get her own manga? Is it manga only Japanese? Typically, yes. However, with the rising popularity of anime and manga in North America during the 90s and 2000s, companies started making their own manga-inspired works to cash in on what was thought to be a fad. The term Amera manga was coined for this, and despite it primarily being a trend in the 90s and 2000s, attempts to make American manga go back to the 1960s, where Gold Key Comics made their own Americanized version of Astro Boy. It only lasted one issue. A lot of the time, these attempts at making Americanized manga feel just like comics or graphic novels. There's color, they don't read from right to left, or their art style doesn't look anything like most manga. But for monetary reasons, companies really wanted to be put under the manga label, despite their works not always looking like what you'd envision to be manga. So before you go in the comments, I'm sure some of you already have, I'm only calling Make 5 Wishes manga because it was advertised as such. I personally don't think it looks anything like manga, but between advertising, Avril's love for Japan, and the publisher literally being called Del Rey Manga, I feel like I need to refer to it as such. Actually, let's talk about the publisher because I find them to be fascinating. Del Rey Manga, no connection to Lana Del Rey, was the manga publishing imprint of Del Rey Books, now known as Random House. The company made its debut in 2004 by publishing 4 different manga series in English. Those being Mobile Suit Gundam Seed, Nejima Magister Neji Magi, Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle, and XXX Holic. I don't know if you say the X in that. I'm only familiar with one of these series. The company would continue to publish series from other companies, and would soon make their own original English manga series up until 2010, when Kodansha USA took their place and Del Rey Manga became defunct. They published a lot of neat stuff during this time. Some of their imports I recognize are Mermaid Melody, Sugar Sugar Rune, Parasite, Shugochara, Save Me Lollipop, and Fairy Tail. However, I'm more intrigued by their original works. They provided us with manga adaptations for Ben 10 Alien Force and Bakugan Battle Brawlers, despite the latter being a Japanese property to begin with, as well as original works by Courtney Love and Avril Lavigne, which of course is the one I'll be discussing today. Avril Lavigne's Make 5 Wishes isn't solely by her, it actually only stars her. The story was created by Camilla D'Erico and Joshua Dessart. When I made a TikTok about Make 5 Wishes, many of my viewers recognized Camilla's work, and you might too. She's a pop surreal artist and author, and her works are breathtaking. Joshua, on the other hand, is a writer who has worked for companies such as DC Comics and Dark Horse, so he's very accomplished as well. With 2 talented creators at the wheel of this project, this should be good. Right? Make 5 Wishes follows the adventures of a young girl named Hana. She seems to be your typical brooding preteen who longs to be accepted by her peers. However, I'm thoroughly convinced this chick needs hardcore therapy. She has a bad home life and a hard time making friends at school, problems that aren't uncommon. However, her way with coping with said problems is where my concern comes from. She pretends to be imaginary friends with Avril Lavigne, which in itself isn't too weird, but she can see, hear, and have full conversations with her imaginary Avril. She acts as Hana's conscience at times, and even her parents acknowledge how often she talks to imaginary Avril. So far not too bad, but the concerning behavior gets a lot worse, because her favorite pastime is catfishing people. She fakes a relationship with her teacher. Instead of sending Hana to get psychiatric help, her mother puts her into a program to spend time with the elderly because they're both lonely. Savage. Of course, with Hana being an angsty preteen with zero social skills, she hurts the old man's feelings. Tired of her life being trash, she resorts to a coping mechanism many of us use: retail therapy. She finds a sketchy ad for a site called make5wishes.com and orders a package from them because it's only $19.95. Honestly, mood. When her package arrives, she receives this magic little red guy who will grant her 5 wishes. Everything's fine at first. Hana is noticed by the guy she likes, she begins to get along with the old man from earlier, and her life seems to be getting better. However, as the wishing continues, things don't end up as Hana wanted. Tiny Demon Dude has been creating some mischief on Hana's behalf, including faking a suicide. Dude, what? Not only that, but her initial wish to not see Mr. Weston results in him seeing his dead wife and being so traumatized that his physical and mental health rapidly declines. This is where Hana begins to realize that her wishes have consequences. What will you learn? That your actions have consequences! However, she forgets her worries by hanging out with imaginary Avril and being lovingly welcomed at school the following Monday. That is where Volume 1 ends, and it gets crazier from here. So let's take a commercial break before jumping into Volume 2.
Avril Lavigne is back with her new album, Under My Skin. Don't try to tell me what to say. You're better off that way. Avril Lavigne, the new album, Under My Skin, in stores now.
Volume 2 takes place immediately after Volume 1. It turns out the warm welcome at the end of Volume 1 was as imaginary as Avril. Naturally, Hana questions the results of her wish, and Little Man tells her that they'll start coming true at least by tomorrow. She's somehow okay with this and continues to grow closer to her crush. Our little red guy also gets a name. Hana names him Romeo. How cute. Unfortunately, that slight bit of positivity comes to an abrupt halt when Hana returns home and finds her mother in tears. Romeo's way of granting Hana's wish for her parents' happiness didn't go as Hana imagined. He sets out a box with proof of her dad cheating. This little guy breaks a marriage? A toxic one, sure, but the audacity? Ooh. Of course, Hana is beyond angry, and after she tells Romeo to shut up, he just sits on the bed like a polite little gentleman. This is how the scene ends? I don't know if this is funny, but I find it to be very amusing. That night, Romeo can't help himself and exposes Hana for her catfishing escapades. The next morning, imaginary Avril tells Hana that she shouldn't go to school.
She knows.
How Avril knows what's about to go down? I don't know. But regardless, Hana grabs Romeo and heads to school. The day starts out normal enough, but things take a turn when Hana, her crush, and another girl she had messed with online are called to meet their teacher privately. Hana gets exposed for all of the horrible things she's done. Although Romeo did escalate things, he needs to take some blame here. She's pushed down and called a monster. Everything she's wished for seems to be crumbling around her, but suddenly... there's an explosion! Everyone is set on fire and dies! I kid you not! Romeo does save Hana so the story can continue. However, every time I read this part, I simply cannot get over how absurd this situation is. Morally corrupt genie? I can accept that. Imaginary pop star? Sure, I'll take it. Angsty preteen protagonist who likes to catfish people? Honestly, that's a mood. However, an unexpected explosion, followed by multiple deaths of important characters? Good visual representation of Hana's wishes killing her chances at anything real. But why did it have to hit so suddenly? Why did we have to watch the innocent crush burn alive? Romeo! Why? Hana wakes up in a hospital, and from here the story feels like a fever dream, which I think was the intention. She's drawn with a fire-like aura around her, as if she's still on fire. Hana does become popular due to the incident, and no one knows of her horrible behavior because all of the witnesses died, so she becomes friends with a cosplayer who seems like a total sweetheart, and she even dresses Hana up like Avril. Despite Hana's wishes technically coming true, they did more harm than good. Hana continues to spiral, and while out with her friend, she jumps off a nearby bridge. Coincidentally, the stranger who complimented her costume while at this cosplay event was the real Avril Lavigne. She's finally here, skater boys! Avril exclaims, "Oh my god! Little girl! She just jumped! She just totally jumped!" And then the book ends with a shot of Hana's parents crying and the incident being broadcast on the news.
What the hell was that?
Before I rant, let me go over the positives. First, while the art isn't perfect, I do like it. Some pages look stunning, and it suits the edgy 2000s style perfectly. I did enjoy Romeo, the little red guy. He's a bit of a jerk, but only causes chaos in Hana's life when asked to do so. Usually. Which encourages the reader to truly think about the potential consequences of making a wish. I think a morally corrupt genie-type character is a neat concept. Now let's move on to my dislikes. I'm not a fan of the story. I do like the whole be careful what you wish for moral the author is going for. However, the story feels too mean-spirited for my taste. Hana isn't a likable character. I understand that she comes from a broken home and doesn't have friends at school, but that's no excuse to be a brat who catfishes people on the internet and is rude to the elderly. If imaginary Avril wasn't forced to put up with Hana, I bet she wouldn't. Speaking of Avril, why did she appear as an actual person at the end and literally do nothing? I get that the cover says starring Avril Lavigne, but you didn't need to be here. You did nothing. I assume there was supposed to be a volume 3 because this ending sucks. I get that it's a cautionary tale about wishing, but having the main girl off herself as the ending? Really? That feels too cruel to me. I get that Hana was not a good person, but everything she did was a cry for attention. This is a child. A child who wanted to be loved and accepted. She's a horrible character, but do I wish death upon a child who clearly needs therapy? No. Who does that? So, do I recommend Make 5 Wishes? No. Unless you're a fan of Avril or you like the artwork, I don't recommend it. It's too mean-spirited for its own good, and while there are aspects of the story I enjoyed, I can't say it's worth reading unless you can laugh at how cruel things get. The explosion, followed by this boy's traumatized face, will live in my head, rent-free. That's all for this video, kind of a downer to end on, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed this, and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. If you want more consistent content from me, follow me on TikTok. I post lots of girly nostalgia and magical girl videos. Also, I have a second channel where I post cute sleepover type content. I'll be uploading more there soon. It's a lot more relaxed and personal, so I do hope you'll check it out. Troop on Hopelets, stay adorkable. Bye!